Got ourselves a batch of shinies, Commander.
Welcome to episode 24 of Coordinated Fire, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast where I lose to Americans just like the Jays. How we doing, everyone?
Not sure I like that one, but
Too soon.
it's okay. We're going to let it roll. Yeah. Okay,
As our fresh
Dylan.
wounds.
You a baseball guy,
for
Dylan?
Everyone involved.
You a baseball guy, Dylan?
Not overly, no. But
Oh, okay.
I mean,
All right.
if it's on and, Canadians are doing well.
I'm the only baseball
Woohoo.
fanatic on tonight.
But
We
Canadian
should
sports team
introduce
does
Yeah.
well.
our guest here.
Sports.
Sports.
Go sports.
Fits right in. Well, first and foremost, obviously, we got everybody, the usuals here. And we have Dylan joining us from beautiful British Columbia. Hi, Dylan.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely excited to have you here. I think you guys touched on it a bit last week, but I flew out to BC to take part in the Richmond Reroll GT. Was an absolutely incredible time. I know for me, it was just really nice to put some faces to some names, get to meet people in person. Dylan being one of them. Dylan and I are going to run through some games and we're going to chat about the event, which I'm excited to go through. Cool. So we also had a local event on Saturday, where I think all of us tried out some newer lists, played some stuff a little off meta, which was super fun. I got Empire on the table for the first time for me. I literally have not touched one of these models before, so that was a first. Sean, you were trying something new too?
Yeah. So this was our last event at Critical Hit, which we host our monthly events at. This the last one for the year. I got General Han Solo and Cassian on the table. I played Cassian a couple times before, but Han was new for me. Wow. Han can do some crazy
The boys
stuff.
got plays.
Oh man, I had one play in one of my games, swung me 2 points and a momentum for a 4 score and a momentum to almost take a struggle. Yeah, if you can line him up, if he's midline up the board and you can line him up, he's crazy. Definitely something I'm going to be trying more of for our weekly night on Thursday. Whoever I play is going to be going against Han and Jin. That's a combination I want to try as well too. So really impressed with Han so far.
Excited to see that one. I know for you and myself, been chatting a lot in the Discord on kind of things to try out, things to play. Dylan, the Empire recommendation came from you when I put out the call on what I should play. Donovan in the Discord also put a big push on Riff, so I also played Riff Mando. Was super fun to just get some new stuff on the table. Titus, I'm not even remembering what you ended up playing.
Veers.
So I was playing Veers and Krennic as one half.
You played that in our game.
Just the Veers, the Stormtrooper Sergeant, and then the Krennic box. And then my other half was just the Moff box with the CT box, because I like the supports in both. Moff going with DTE just made sense, and CT, I wanted to play Firebrand, I wanted to play Elite Squad Troopers, and it was either him or Grand Inquisitor, and CT just felt like more fun to me.
Right, it was all Empire.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been a little ho-hum on Grand Inquisitor, right? So that makes sense.
Well, I think Grand Inquisitor is fine if you have at least one other Inquisitor. If I'm going full troopers, I don't think he quite makes the cut for me.
My
Awesome.
other half too was I was running the Krennic GI, famously from the Gen Con list with Obi-2, Fifth Brother, Krennic, V3, and Death Troopers.
It's a good one. Dylan, have you played any games since the GT?
I did actually. Lee, our tournament organizer for the GT, and he hosts a lot of our monthlies. He came over for a casual game because I think we've all felt the grand tournament grind, and now it's done. It's like, okay, let's put some models that I want to get on the table. I had actually 4 premier lists worth of stuff that I'm like, I want to try all these things. Realized that most of them involve models I don't have, so I threw together Mother Talzin, Savage, and Fifth Brother with Moff, Dengar, and the Shore Troopers. So basically just wanted to get Mother Talzin and Savage back on the table. I needed to give Shore Troopers another go. Although, spoiler alert, I think this was maybe not exactly the right list to make them shine. But the idea being basically just leaning into that steadfast and protection.
It's real good.
Yeah. And so Lee was also kind of experimenting. He also threw Crosshair Box on the table with Aiden's box, but with Dell as the support. So just leaning in all snipers. So yeah, the steadfast definitely made struggle 1 difficult for him, and I was able to get that. But once he started getting his wounds, it turned the other way. So he pulled that one out. But it was a fun game, and like I messaged him after, like I just feel so refreshed, just like throwing something fun on the table like that. It was good.
Yeah.
I think we all came out of Saturday kind of rejuvenated after feeling a little burnt out.
Yeah.
So
and when you say Talzin and Savage, that's a primary secondary combination that I love, and I am hoping the Morgan box coming out next year really maybe gives Mother Talzin and some of the Dathomirians a boost. So when you said that, I was like, yeah,
there's at least going to be a
that.
Dathomirian tag.
I'm into that.
There will be one. That's for certain.
Awesome. So before we dive into the event, Dylan, I imagine there's a few people listening that definitely recognize your voice. So you want to introduce yourself, where people might have seen/heard you. I'll pass it over to you.
Sure. So yeah, I'm the creator of Time to Nerd, the YouTube channel, which I actually created about 10 years ago when I was in graduate studies. But what I was doing was very different at that point than it is now. But I had actually started recording games at our monthly Imperial Assault tournaments before Shatterpoint came out, and so I already had kind of the setup ready to go once we started doing Shatterpoint. And so yeah, I've got assembly videos, tournament battle reports, and sometimes some Shadowbox games. Just trying to experiment with stuff. And so yeah, that's where you may have heard my voice. I'm not often in front of the screen, but I do some shorts when it comes to our tournaments, just to kind of give updates on what's going on and how the tournament's going.
One of my favorite pieces of content that you've done on your YouTube is the mission shorts that you did on there.
Yeah, thanks.
I thought those were really awesome. If anybody has not seen those, definitely go check them out if you're new to the game or you want a refresher on deployments or objective priority points or anything like that, or how to play the missions. Those mission shorts are great pieces of, I think, of evergreen content that you can go back to and reference at any point. Really great stuff.
Yeah, thanks. And when I go into making stuff like that, it all started from kind of being like, I wonder about this. Like, I wonder if there's a way to deploy that makes this stuff in range of whatever. And then I go, well, I wonder if other people have the same question. So yeah, I throw a mat down and measure it out. And yeah, those videos have done well. So yeah,
really
thank
great
you.
stuff.
I think there's a few topics, and I think deployment and kind of objective ranges is one of those ones that we can talk about in a podcast form. But until you actually see it and can go through it, I don't think it hits the same. As a perfect example in real life that happened over the weekend, we talk a lot on here about the boss openings and what that means. And I've kind of, both in the Discord and live, chatted about the step-by-step on how that's done, but I don't think it lands quite the same until you actually see it happen in person. And I know I had some really great chats at the event of a couple times getting that opening and being like, wow, that's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think video content's super important. I think it's something that is a bit lacking when it comes to Shatterpoint as a whole. So thank you, Dylan, for the work that you do and getting some of that out there and being able to watch some games. I know my setup here is monitor for work, monitor for fun, and TV right above them. And those have played on that TV while doing both those things several times.
Nice. Thank you for the watch time.
Anytime. Awesome. Well, let's, I guess, jump into the GT. Dylan, I'll pass it over to you first. You want to cover your list?
Sure. So coming out of Evergreen Open, I had run a full Empire list, and again at that GT, I was like, okay, after this, I wanna try out Rogue One and play some games with Rogue One. So I distilled my Empire list down to Moth Box and Grand Inquisitor Box. At the time, I was having a lot of fun with Fourth Sister, but made the swap to Fifth Brother instead. And it was actually in the last week of practice, when I was starting to practice more into Delta OB for some reason, that I decided to make the swap of supports. So putting Fifth Brother in Moff Squad and the Dark Troopers in Grand Inquisitor's squad. So that was the Empire half. And then the Rebel half, I found with just the Rogue One boxes was struggling with elevation and out of activation movement. So I went with Cassian, K2SO, and Commandos, along with Princess Leia, Daring Luke, and Bazin Chirrut. And I also brought Never Tell Me Odds, trying to disrupt some of the lists that are not as strong on that mission.
Which I think is a very relevant play in the current meta we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think so.
I know I wasn't looking forward to playing odds, although I think Delta can absolutely do it. But my other list absolutely was not ready for that. So
did you have any, Dylan, when you were distilling Empire ideas, did you have any consideration in taking Iden Inferno Squad?
So I know everyone's looking at me as the Empire guy. I don't actually have that box.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think Inferno Squad 2 can is a way that you can play into Delta right now, or at least the answer back.
But pre Evergreen, I do actually like the Krennic squad that I was running along with Grand Inquisitor into Deltas. I think the Krennic Death Trooper Specialist Death Troopers does bring enough firepower to take out the key figures.
Yeah, we're going to deep dive some Empire here tonight.
I like it. Before I jump into my list, I do just want to give a huge thank you, one, to the entire BC Shatterpoint community for being just incredibly welcoming. Dylan, that is you included, but I want to, give a specific thank you to both Lee and Jeff for running an absolutely incredible event. Lee for giving me a place to stay while out there. Double appreciated. Every game I played was a great match. Met some incredible players and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, Jeff and Lee are great for sure, and they're definitely big pillars in our community, keeping things going.
Yeah, and I know both Jeff and Lee have been on the cast before, and Jeff has come down to Ontario. Came to Table Bound Open last year, hopefully again this year. I'll throw out that invite to everybody. Jumping in, so from a list, you guys have heard me talk about this. I told everyone what I was taking before the event. It is the exact same list that I took to Force Convergence with one swap. So I took Kenobi, Rex, Commandos with Boss Fixer, 7 Scorch, a Vader, Jedi Hunter, Snips, Padawans, Kiadi, Shakti, and the 501st on shifting priorities. So the swap was from Barriss to Snips, and that was definitely just some meta calls. When I had Barriss in the list, that was for if I end up running Vader and Kiadi into a Cassian list. Whether I get list chickened or honestly a matchup I was feeling pretty comfortable with before, especially with a lot of Cassian lists taking Sabotage. But from Force Convergence, I learned that I am very comfortable with Kenobi and Delta into the Cassian lists in general. So I kind of stuck with that game plan and tweaked the Vader Kiadi list to basically go into Hunter Boss was the game plan. This is what I was taking into that matchup, and that matchup didn't happen. Spoiler alert, but is what it is. I do think shifting is just the right answer for this list. I absolutely think it is Delta's best mission. Vader loves everybody coming to the midline, so I don't see myself taking anything other than shifting with this list. That's the list. So let's take a run through some rounds. So Dylan, we'll just go through these. Don't need a play-by-play, but basically, what was your opponent's list? What was the matchup? Why did you choose the list that you chose for the matchup? Although I think you and I took a very similar approach to most of this event in we had a list we wanted to play. But let's talk about those matchups, why we chose what we chose, and we'll bang through these.
Sounds good.
Sweet. I will pass it over to you first for your round one.
All right. So yes, going into the event, I definitely had more confidence in the Empire list than the Rebel list, especially on the spread out maps like Odds and First Contact, because I played those lists against each other a bunch. And on those spread out maps, the Empire team was pretty much always winning. So round 1, I ran into Shelly, which is one of our locals, and she definitely preferred Empire and Murder. So, and also her husband Chris plays a lot of Cassian Leia, which was my Rebel list, a little different, but same primaries. So, and she was also bringing odds. So rather than dropping the Rebel team, which I know the Empire team has tools into, I decided to go for the mirror. So both bringing odds. She didn't have the support swap. Her other list was full Mandos. So either way, I'm comfortable throwing the Empire list down, and we got the X on odds. I was first player. All the active points were elevated. So I basically looked for my opportunities to go for those back points, and that helped me take struggle 1. And I was able to win in 2 struggles with 3 wounds to 2.
Ends up a mirror. Awesome. Yeah, I think that really is something that comes down to just you're at list experience and dice variance at that point as kind of a combined thing. Sweet. Jumping into my round 1, and Dylan, I'm going to need you to correct me if I get any names wrong as we go through these. That was Mario. Yes.
Probably, yeah.
Great game. Great opponent. This was one where it was definitely an introduction to what that boss opening looks like. So I played Obi Boss into Cassian Han. I saw that he was playing First Contact. So that was a definitive I am playing Obi Boss, because the other option is not an option on First Contact. And again, saw Cassian. I know the game plan. This was, so I believe I flipped Fixer on the first flip, reserved into boss, did the opening. And from the conversation, this was kind of first experience with what that actually looks like. I did win the roll off on the mission, so this was on shifting. I think struggle 1 went pretty quickly here, but there was a very good fight for struggle 2. This was actually one of the tightest struggles of the day. Mario played exceptionally well, but it just came out of some good setup prior to the struggle switch flip that was able to take that into 1 wound, because I don't want to wound into Cassian. It's a terrible thing. Just gives movement for free. That's how the game went. Dylan, how about your round 2?
Fair enough. Yeah, round 2, I played into Paul Vogel. He was one of the guys up from the States. He was bringing odds. He had a full Rebel list. So the usual Cassian Princess Leia list with K2 commandos, Bodhi, Baze, and Shrut. And then he had a Kanan Han list. I mean, he wasn't necessarily playing it 2x2, but Kanan, Ezra, fourth sister with Han, Vader 3, and Bar 2. And so seeing Cassian, I was dropping Empire again, as well as odds. And he ended up dropping the Kanan Han list, which I think he only played once during the event. But he got first player. He got the flop struggle 1, where his point was the farther one away. And being second player, I was basically just able to put everything into making sure that I scored 3 points each turn, so that we continued landing on the 0, getting momentum, and that allowed me to take struggle 1. I made him work a bit for struggle 2, but basically took that opportunity to get some wounds when the counter impact was pretty minimal, which put him in a pretty bad spot going into struggle 3. So I was able to win that 2-1, get 4 wounds to his 5.
All right. Jumping into my game 2. So this was into Chris, with Shelly's husband that you mentioned from round 1. I'll give a hello to the whole family here. was awesome to get to meet everybody. And I wish we had as cool of a family here, where we had 4 people from the same family coming out to play Shatterpoint, because that is super cool.
We all do.
Apparently Cam's son is a real killer, so he might be coming out to some stuff soon.
Yeah, let's hope he brings him out.
Would love it. Awesome. So I played against Chris. I won the roll-off for this one. So Chris went Cassian Leia. I was a little worried about the matchups for this one. I had to go Obi Boss because Chris was taking odds. One thing I will call out here, there was a lot more odds in First Contact in the meta than I'm used to at home. And that was definitely a bit of a surprise and led to finding a difficult time to play the other list, because I think most opponents had either first contact or odds as going through the event.
I will say, as a local, I was also surprised because our previous couple events have been a lot of sabotage. So yeah, when there was as much odds as there was, I was also surprised.
I'm jealous because I miss playing odds.
People
It's a fun
bringing out
mission.
the surprises. So Chris had Cassian Leia, but also had Jedi Hunter Vader Iden, which as a list as a whole makes me a bit nervous with Delta, because it definitely has the pieces to kind of punch over hunkers, even with Obi, has the pieces to wound 7 Scorch or Fixer pretty handedly. So I wasn't feeling super confident if Chris went that way. He did go Cassian Leia. Chris and I had some great chats throughout this game of just the approach of playing Delta more as a movement hunker defense squad than playing Delta as I'm going to roll you over with dice. He went that Cassian Leia route because that's what he was expecting from Delta. And definitely not the approach I typically take at least with the Obi list in general. And honestly, my playstyle, which we've talked about, I know, it was Ruby that was also playing Boss Hunter. And she caught kind of the back half of this game with Chris and was able to have a great conversation of just some different ways you can approach playing Delta from that, again, more mobility and board control kind of point. So great game.
Well, I guess this would be round 3 then.
This is our game.
Yeah, where I ran into the infamous Kyle, and
oh my god.
Quick pause here.
Sure.
As the local guy, how much chatter was there that somebody was coming from Ontario to come and play this event?
Not much, actually. I would say like the, Jeff Lee. I have a
yourself.
Yeah.
You guys kind of knew what was up.
A few people were like, "Oh yeah, Kyle's going to be coming, and he just won his GT." And yeah, I was bringing up having listened to the podcast, being like, "Oh yeah, he swapped Ahsoka for Barriss," and we got the inside scoop here. And I attempted to compliment him as much as possible, but it was, I don't think I got quite enough compliments in before our game.
Did make me as uncomfortable as it just did right now.
I made sure to point out that he was the only player who had previously won a GT. Jeff wasn't playing; he's won a GT, but none of the other players had won. So, bit of a target there.
But Dylan, you did mention that you practiced against Boss Obi for no particular reason. So
I was going to say that early in the episode. Let's rewind. Yeah, that was mentioned.
No, I didn't set up that they were first player on shifting a couple times just no
for science.
Reason. Yeah,
It's
for science. Experimenting.
It is definitely so. It's one of those things that I feel like you do need to practice ahead of time just to see what it does, because as Kyle mentioned, like that play is a complete blindside if you haven't seen it before. So like there's definitely value to that, like just practicing for the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
I just had to see it once, and I'm like, this is disgusting. Kyle did to me once a crit, and I was like, all right, I've had enough of this.
In all fairness, yours was a particularly spicy one where the terrain allowed me to take your back point, and I think I one-shot the Dark Troopers on first turn, which is statistically off the charts.
So I got it real bad. I got the 1, 2, 3 point.
Yeah, so when I sorry to tangent too far, but my boss doesn't get more than 2 steps ever.
Hey,
when
that sounds like my dice.
But I will maintain that the thing that I think about more with my list is Obi than Delta, and I still think that holds true.
I agree.
Yeah, because it's
100%.
Because it's Obi that can just completely prevent you from flipping points.
Oh yeah, the best thing
Boss is going to do what Boss
does
does, but yeah.
The best thing boss does in that list is give everyone hunkers.
Yeah.
Like at that
He
point,
does it
Obi
so
takes
well, though.
over.
He does this so well.
And if Obi is not there, you get into melee.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but anyway,
So, Dylan, you won the roll off.
I did, yes.
this.
So that put us on odds.
I went boss Obi.
Mm-hmm.
One, because you were playing odds,
Mm-hmm.
which means I was basically forced into it. You had Cassian on top of that. I've played this into Empire a few times. Was, I think, more confident about it than I should have been, to be clear. I don't think I've played into GI Moff.
Right.
Like, I've played against both of those squads individually with paired with other things, but I don't think I've played with them together.
Yeah, because I've never played them together. So you've never played me with them together.
Yeah, and you're my Empire practice. And I know Moff's reserve tax can be tough, especially when I need to do things with Obi. So I went with it, and again, you won the roll off. Trying to remember the flip we got.
So I had the further point on my side.
Yes.
So yeah, I had set up in a way that basically put Fifth Brother within a dash of an Ingress point that would get him to that, because I have four units in the list that can dash him. So that put my Grand Inquisitor squad on the right, Moff squad on the left, and I think this is the wildest, most ridiculous game I've had.
Our first couple activations were certainly something.
Turn 1 Shatterpoint. So I go with Grand Inquisitor because he's on the right where our midline objective is. So dash Fifth Brother up to that far middle point on my side. Go hunker Grand Inquisitor on the right. Do you want to go through your turn?
I then flip Shatterpoint as the opening, and honestly, with where things were and the setup, I was super conflicted on what to activate here, even though normally if I Shatterpoint or boss, it's boss. It wasn't an obvious answer. I will say that I did end up doing it, so I ended up going boss. Just to get everything up. Went over, and Dylan, I think I moved boss across the board and took your back point, which was at elevation. So you were holding it from the ground, and I jumped up and took your back point. Got a very good shot against Fifth Brother. I think I did.
You full treat.
I full treat. Yeah. On not the side that could wound him.
Yeah, on wet work, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Because you did the rainbow of conditions almost.
Yes, which that was, I think, some dice variance from both of our sides and on that one, but had boss up on the back point, and Fixer, Seven Scorch kind of all moved forward. You then back to your order of activation.
Yeah, I then picked Fifth Brother, who was going to have a bad activation, and I didn't really want to move him off that point. So I reserved him and picked Grand Inquisitor, who I also didn't super want to move off the point he was on, but he could take your back point because it was at elevation.
Yes.
And decided against attacking anyone, just attempted to kind of half body block a ladder to that point. But yeah, that was my turn 2.
Yeah. And then, and again, we're going through the start of the game because this was weird. I then, from Shatterpoint, flip boss, and boss is already up. No one is in range to move from where boss is. This activation will basically do nothing for me because I could wound Fifth Brother, but then I have nothing that can take Fifth Brother's point. And if boss left his point, Dylan deployed, like it would DT, I think, in deployment, that would just have taken the point if boss moved. So this activation could do nothing. I spent 3 force on the boss opening on the previous go. So I spent my last 2 force to reserve boss here. So I went through the rest of this with 0 force.
I'm not sure if you did Rule 17 on boss on the Shatterpoint, because I think you had one after this turn.
I did have one left. You're right. Yeah, because I didn't Rule 17. It didn't really get anywhere that was important. Yeah, you're right. So I did end up with 1 force left after this turn. I think I flipped.
I thought it was Rex. Or
It was Rex. It was
Yeah.
Rex. It absolutely was. Yeah, because Rex was able to get a commando up or Obi up
Mhm.
beside Grand Inquisitor. Yes, Rex got Obi up beside Grand Inquisitor, shoved Grand Inquisitor off of the point, and then Rex took the far point. So I was able to swing both the left-hand points back my way with the Rex flip. And Dylan, I think we discussed at the time that Rex flip was the only flip that could have done that.
Yeah, because
Order deck things.
commandos can't shove Grand Inquisitor off. They could outbody him on
Yeah.
one, but not go for the other. Same with Obi, basically. That was the one card out of 5 that could pull that swing off.
Yeah. There was some OB plays if I did flip OB, jump
Well,
up,
yeah.
shove off.
You're right.
Commandos were still touching. He could. Anyway, there were some options, but it was a really weird start to the game. I think the rest of this struggle ended up.
Yeah, I couldn't really recover from that. I think like I had Death Trooper Escort go up and hit boss to try and get that back, and he got nothing through. All he needed was the one shove.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So that struggle 1 was over pretty quickly.
And then went from there, right? No, but then struggle 2 was a slog.
Yeah.
And this was, you had a very favorable setup for going into the struggle. Every single turn I said out loud, if I don't roll my priority point, I need to just give up the struggle and keep going, and kept rolling my priority point, which I think sums up most of this struggle.
Yeah. It absolutely does.
You had Third Sister on your one back point. She kind of just stayed there for this entire struggle right up until the end swing turn.
So the point that at the end of struggle 1 had OB and the commandos on it was the point that kept being priority for him and sometimes me.
Yeah, you fought like hell for this one. This was one hell of a struggle. I did not feel like I was really in it until that last turn or two, but every time I was like, okay, I can do enough. Yeah. Your tiebreakers were super relevant here. Off and Fifth Brother were giving me a hard time. But I think once 7 Scorch really got into play is when this kind of started to swing my way.
Yeah,
I think they wounded Moth.
I think so, and you had some good positioning there with making it so that even if I got a shove through, it was hard to get people off of that objective.
Yes,
and yeah, there was definitely a Moth whiff late in that struggle, which kind of sealed the deal on that. But was a great game. I don't think I never think that a 2-0 score kind of represents a game well, because they can be very different in how we got there. But honestly, I was really impressed with what the list could do, and that was even with some variant struggles. But I walked away from that game being like, I want to play this list. I want to play this Empire list. You played this game very well. Thank you. Yeah, and I was satisfied hearing a full Republic player say, if I was going to play Empire, I would want to play this list. And I think
it checks the boxes for how I like to play Shatterpoint, because it's a list that can wound when it needs to and get some benefit from that, but certainly doesn't have to take points or control the board, which is absolutely up my alley. I have always been a huge fan of Long Live the Empire as an ability. I think it opens up some incredible plays, and I think the list leverages it very well.
Yeah, and I had even for Evergreen, when I had a full Empire list, and it was kind of 2x2 Grand Inquisitor Krennic Moff Thrawn, I had realized that the Grand Inquisitor Moff pairing was what I play into Obi-Wan. And part of that is because the entire list has 2 shoves by 3 steps. And that's very important because Obi-Wan is making everybody keep their hunkers, which means most of the clones are steadfast as well. So the list is very mobile. There's lots of jumps. You're getting into melee, so they're not getting the full extra dice. You get the 2 shoves through, you can still shove people off. And with the tiebreakers, you don't necessarily need them to be off to take the point. So it causes times where you're looking at that hunker like, okay, I can get them back on the point, but it's not actually preventing the flip in this, or you're forcing them to get rid of the hunker, and now that hunker's gone for the next activations.
Yeah, again, double tiebreaker I think makes a huge difference in OB. You have Fifth Brother with the Force Repulse. Again, Sean, these are both, I think, lists individually, squads individually that you've played dozens of times. What are your thoughts on kind of the pairing together?
I think it's really, really good. After we've done these games here, I've been kind of writing notes while you guys have been talking here. I have 3 or 4 questions here that I want to get through with Dylan on the list, and just talking about a number of things here. So yeah, it's definitely intriguing, and why the 2x2 works so well on odds and that kind of stuff. But we can get into that a little bit later.
For sure.
I liked it enough that I played it 3 rounds at our Saturday event, and one of those was with Titus, and we had a solid game there. Some sloppy Shatterpoint from both of us.
It was very sloppy. We missed a lot of triggers and plays we should have done, but fun times.
But was a good game. All right, Dylan, I'll pass it to you for round 4.
Sure. So yeah, we played. It was 3 rounds per day. So at this point, we've all gone home, and I'm not sure if you had a similar experience, but I went home and looked at all the other 2-1s and went, okay, who am I going to play this Rebel team into? Because otherwise I'm just going to play this Empire list all day and have problems. But there was one where I was like, yeah, okay, this would be kind of the ideal spot to play the Rebels. But then the other one that I was okay with, basically because I didn't want a Cassian mirror, was Kyle, our local. He was running Delta Hunter, and his other list, he had Grand Inquisitor box with Fifth Brother, as well as Iden, Death Trooper Escort, and Darks. So he was obviously here for murder. So it seemed like a good place to drop my triple revenge list. And so we played on odds. I had the far point this time, but it was covered by commandos, and the dice were dicing real hard in this game. I don't think that Leia rolled any fails on any of her attacks, so she was getting often 6 results before the blocks on her revenge attacks. And then on top of that, Cassian got 3 damage on his bomb after struggle 1, 2 damage on the bomb after struggle 2. So I was able to win that one 2-1 and got 7 wounds to his 5 on this one.
Yeah, that's a lot of violence.
7's a lot of wounds.
Yeah, and I should also mention he did wound my commandos before they activated, and I think got a second wound on them before struggle 1 was done. So which is what I worry about with that list. I was very lucky that they must have been bottom of the deck on the second shuffle, because they never came up again. But going into struggle 2 or even struggle 3 with somebody about to come off the board is never a great feeling. So that's I made sure I held back. I'm like, you're going to take struggle 2. I'm going to let you have it quickly, because if these guys come up struggle 2 and they're off the board before struggle 3, that's not good.
Dylan, that is 1 less wound than I got at the entire event.
Yep.
That was actually, and I'm going to off track us here again. That was a narrative coming out of this event. This was talked about, that Kyle had only done 8 wounds across the entire event, and people were actually, I got a DM on Discord from Chris Sampson.
Yeah,
like, how does he do this?
Somebody punched something in wrong? What?
Yeah. Like, and it's like, how does he play? And I'm like, this is just how he plays the game. And it's such a different perspective than I think a lot of people have. And it's one of the things that I love about him, and that he's been able to do it and play it this way.
I mean,
like Dylan in our game, I think I ended up with 3 wounds. Yes.
Right.
And there was 1 wound in my round 1, 0 in round 2, and then 3 against you. So round 4, to your point, I very much knew who I was going to be playing against the round 1 of day 2, and was, I believe, the only other 3-0.
Yeah.
Coming out of that at that point, yeah. So I knew I was going into. He also was playing Boss Obi alongside Kiadi and Ahsoka 1. I have yet at this point to play Kiadi Vader. I was kind of expecting him to go Obi Boss. Now, he was running First Contact, which is what made me really nervous to run this list. But the fact that he was running First Contact made him think I wasn't going to run the Vader list. So we played a little fun game of List Chicken, of honestly a game of List Chicken that I think I won, or felt like I won, at least coming into, both of us revealing our lists. So Ryan played Obi Kiadi. I had Kiadi Vader. In theory, I should definitely be able to get ahead on the wound game. In practice, that is not how this game went whatsoever. But he did win the roll off, so we ended up playing First Contact, which was a super impactful thing here, because I do think Obi in general is just very good on First Contact. It allows you to be a little more flexible in terms of the fluctuating objectives. So we end up with the X for Struggle 1. So it was kind of just a rush to center. Again, I went into this thinking, okay, the X is probably favorable for me. Despite Obi really liking it, it was a platform that we both had ingress points up to. So I'm like, okay, he goes first. He's going to put something on the middle. Just about everything on my list can walk up to anything he puts there and hit it a lot harder than he can hit me. That back and forth did not go my way in any way, shape, or form. I think 501st was my first pull. So the one thing that can't punch the thing in the middle, but got a really great shot, some great shots on Shock T, which is what Ryan flipped first. A bit of back and forth there. He got his Padawans up which came up and wounded my 501st. And I'm like, holding this with Padawans, I just had to get up there and hit them. Easy. And I think I got Shock T here. I don't remember. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But whatever went into the middle, failed to win the Padawans, completely whiffed the roll. Okay, we're on a back foot, but we have a plan. Ryan is then able to shatter point those Padawans. His Shock T is still holding that center point where I have nothing alive on it, and then he's able to actually hit the thing I have, wound what I had on the point, and then go take the 2 back points with the Padawans. So Ryan scores 5, 3 activations in to First Contact. So this went his way pretty quick from Struggle 1. I kind of from there, we had a couple turns of scoring before he was able to just take it. I kind of had a swing turn prepped with my own Padawans. If they were able to go in, wound his Padawans, I could move Kiadi, take this point, Padawan takes this point, and Padawan goes back to the center, and Shock T was not on elevation for taking that point. So there was a chance I could have scored 3 back. My Padawans, both attacking his Padawans with Vader dice, whiffed and did not wound them. And at this point, it's like, okay, I have to give up Struggle 1 and just kind of moved the Padawans to start setting up for Struggle 2. And I got another activation in there before he was able to score it out, and just kind of set up for some ideal Struggle 2. I got a pretty ideal Struggle 2 and was able to get some wounds, a couple wounds in this struggle, allowing me to take 2. And then when we got to 3, we were in the same boat. Basically, it was back and forth activations between Ryan and I, where Ryan attacked my Padawans with Kiadi, one-shot them. I then flip Kiadi immediately after and go to wound his Padawans, and my Kiadi has Vader dice, and I fail to wound his Padawans. Ryan made every right play in this game to have everything in the right position, which is what made me rely on, I have to get dice through, I have to wound to be able to catch up in this game. And the dice didn't happen. And that is due to the position I was put in by both, a mission that I don't think this is super favorable for here, but Ryan also set up for Struggle 3 very well throughout 2. So this went pretty quickly his way, but I think it paints the picture of Obi Kiadi with 4 wounds against me, with Vader Kiadi with 2 total wounds in this game from my side. And I tried to wound this one, I promise. I really put in the effort to do that. This was an incredible game. Ryan and I had a great game, great chats throughout. Dylan, I believe this is the one you recorded, so people can watch this at some point. Eventually. This was a great game. It was super great to meet Ryan here. And yeah, this is what happens when I run into an American at an event. It is a pattern at this point. But great game here. Dylan, I'll pass it over to you for 5.
Well, round 5, I was against Donovan, the infamous Shark Boy. He was bringing Sabotage Showdown, Riftbox, Cassian, Ezra, Bazin Sharut, Mando Dengar Weekways, Jin Callus, Rebel Commandos. So seeing a Cassian anchor, that means Empire for me again, and he dropped Cassian Mando. So I was first player on this one, so I chose odds. We got the X, and basically I was able to turn 1 body block the ladder to the center point with my Dark Troopers. And Order Deck was not on his side, because again, I have Moff, so with 5 Force, he's not looking to reserve. And so he only scored 2, I scored 3. Ezra came to the center and took it, but Reva put an exposed attack into him, pushing him into 5th Brother, who finished him off. Was able to challenge the odds, so just slowly pull it back over to my side. And then after that, we had quite a long 3-3. Because of body blocking that ladder, I was able to wound pretty freely because all of his revenge triggers are just movement, and that movement wasn't going to get him anywhere. So took advantage of that because he did have a few steadfast bodies, so just punched through and wound, and finally prevented a flip from him so I could score 4 and finish that off. Struggle 2, I just set up for struggle 3. Just avoid the bomb. Only a Dark Trooper was on an active point. Just set up for struggle 3, get another wound, and I had a favorable flip, so struggle 3 was over pretty quickly. We got 4 wounds each on that game.
Yeah, I think that is a super smart play into Cassian. Is, if you're not going for that second struggle, just get off points, because that's going to put you in a better position for 3. Awesome. Round 5, I played against Bradley. He was great opponent, great game. And had a ton of fun with this one. I have been pretty impressed with how Mandos are actually performing in current meta, and I think a lot of people were a little too quick to jump off of them. I actually think Mandos have a decent game into Delta. Mando in general is obviously a great revenge. Armor being one of few pieces, it still just has a really easy access to an expose. Covert Mandos are just an incredible support. Clan Krees have very good access to shoves. I think it has all the pieces it needs to play here pretty early on this one. He flipped armor, walked her up, and one-shot 7 Scorch. They're dead, which was a pretty impressive flip. And I don't think I rolled poor defensively either. They were hunkered. I had all the pieces, but a hot roll on armor with plenty of crits coming through. And that kind of changed after an early lead I had in struggle 1. There was some good fight back and forth post that. I don't know, we had a lot of fun, but mostly I think Mandos have a spot still, and I feel like they're being a little overlooked. It is, for me, it's armor Mando for sure as the best option there. I know there's been a lot of others explored. I don't think this is Maul's meta, but I think Armor and Mando, at least into OB Delta, I think have solid play.
Yeah, he's been playing that list a long time, and that playing into him with that list was probably my tightest win in April at our April GT. Yeah, we had a struggle 1 where I almost took it and then he pulled it back. Then from there it was like, okay, I'm on the back foot. I gotta claw this back.
Yeah, I had this game was called by a couple dumb boss turns, which happens. Dylan, I'm going to do my round 6 and then pass it back to you for your round 6, which really is the game that felt like the finals table of the event. So I'll jump into 6 here. So my round 6 was into Brett, Wicked Fictitious, and Longshanks. I know just from my own creeping Longshanks that Brett is an incredible player and had a very cool list. So he's playing Anakin, Lumi, and I think the other list was Kanan, Luke, and he did very well with that. This was, I want to roll off. I think he had Sabotage.
That sounds right, probably.
Yes, he had Sabotage. But yeah, I had played both of his lists a couple times, so I didn't really know what to expect. But he went Anakin Lumi. I went Boss Obi. I don't remember the order of activations here, but this was another boss opening. I want to say this was a like reserve flip. I'm like reserve something. Obi flips into boss as the boss or Shatterpoint as the third card, but that could be incorrect. But I did the thing, but was very worried about Anakin coming in as a response to that. Anakin ended up being a little deeper into his deck than I think would have been preferred here. Took an early lead, struggle 1, but he was able to get 7 Scorch down very quickly the first time. I ended up Shatterpointing them to bring them up. Honestly was a very tight struggle 1. He was putting some very early wounds on some key pieces for me, but was able to hang on to kind of just holding the majority of objectives. I very much thought he had struggle 2 in this game. A couple variants, some expected just attacking into hunkered OB dice, things that can be a little tough. There was one with Anakin attacked Rex, left him with 2 health and strained. I dropped the hunker, didn't heal the strain, dashed Rex to kill Rex, which stopped Anakin from getting to be able to follow up on the wound to get Anakin's identity trigger, which is a unique thing about playing OB into Anakin, which I think can open up some pretty cool reactive plays. And then I had 7 Scorch with 1 health left on a back point, and Lumi walked up and failed to get a damage through. And kind of just that would have been a 3-point swing for Brett back and forth, dice be dice, and that led to a no score. Was a rough ending to a very good game. I was actually impressed with what Lumi Anakin was able to do. I think I've both played into Anakin Cam a few times, but I think Lumi's a cool twist and opens up some very cool mobility when Anakin does the thing. So I liked it. I think Brett was one of the few like genuinely unique lists at the event. So a huge shout out goes there. I'm playing Lumi, Anakin, Luke, kind of all on the same list, but was a super cool list. Dylan, I'll pass it over to you for round 6.
Yeah. So to add some context first, Ryan was undefeated at this point.
Yes.
And my game with Donovan ended a little bit early, as did Kyle's. So we got to get the crystal balls out and see how possibly Kyle or I could end up in first place. So basically, I needed to beat Ryan 2-0 in order for either of us to get first. But Kyle needed to lose his game in order for me to have the chance at tiebreakers putting me in first. Ryan had first contact. As you said, he's got OB Delta, so without hesitation, I was going to be dropping Empire, which got me a doubtful look from Kyle when I said it. But as I mentioned before, Rebel Commandos, in a long game, they're going to leave the table, and that's downhill from there.
I think I've been converted.
Yeah.
I went and I was like, and then I played it, and I am a Moff GI believer.
Nice. And so yeah, I'm more confident with Empire into Obi-Wan, as I mentioned. We come up, Ryan ends up getting first, picks first contact, and unlike you, I am actually not disappointed because I do like the mission despite its tendency or possibility of going long. But we get the left arrow from my perspective, and being second player, again, I was able to keep up the 3-3, though I think at some point, I think he scored 2 because we ended up not landing on 0, but going 3-3 back and forth for quite a while. Obi-Wan completely whiffed into my Dart Trooper, so that failed to flip my back point, and that gave me an opportunity to score 4 and finally finish this off pretty close to mission critical at that point, into Struggle 2. So Struggle 2 wasn't a great flip for him, and I was actually able to be the person who scored 3 first, and he decided the first time not to change the card. So that allowed me to pull the struggle cube onto my side for most of the struggle. And we did do some 3-3 flipping, but near the end of the game, 7 Scorch ended up leaving the table, and I was able to finish that off and get the 2-0 with 4 wounds to his 6, as they were including the wounds that were removed from the mission card in Struggle 2, because there was a couple removed. So I think I technically wounded 7 Scorch 3 times because they were brought back once, but pulled it off. And so because I did not get that struggle out of Kyle, he was
Yeah, so in our game, if you had taken Struggle 2, that leads to you winning the event at this point.
Yeah, we would have been tied on struggles. My strength of schedule was slightly better.
Was slightly higher.
So
and I think Ryan was in a similar boat here, where if he got a struggle in this game, he had first no matter what.
Yeah, I think you would have been tied on struggles, and then you were tied on strength of schedule, and I think and obviously
his wounds would have
he had more wounds,
like triple mine, which is one I think is a cool thing to talk about. I think let's jump into talking about full Swiss kind of as a format. Titus, in our hot take episode a couple episodes ago, jumped in with full Swiss is the better format, period, end of story, was Titus's hot take. And Titus, I think one of my counterpoints to that was tiebreakers can get really weird. And I think that is the exact circumstance that we ended up in here. Dylan, I'd say like that table between you and Ryan certainly felt like the final table at an event that was, I caught the back half of that game, and that was pretty intense for both of you. And you came out with the win there. And let me jump into pros for the Swiss first, before I kind of conclude the thought there. One, nobody dropped, right? Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's right.
It was absolutely incredible coming out of 2 days, 6 games, and having everybody present, which I think was a huge win. Everybody stuck out their games, which I think is a testament to the community, to the enjoyment of Shatterpoint. I had a ton of fun, no matter kind of how this event plays out when it comes to top scoring. So with all of those pros aside, because I think there's certainly some merit to the full Swiss from a community perspective, from everyone just getting to play their games. I think exactly how kind of the end of this event went is exactly my concerns for a full Swiss, especially that is over the minimum games to get an undefeated. Dylan, I really feel like you played the finals game here and won. I think for me, the end felt anticlimactic for winning an event from my side. I don't know how was it from your side?
Yeah, so I think it's important to note also that our tournaments have been extended Swiss tournaments. So
yes,
we have gone past the number of games needed to get one undefeated. This tournament was 6 rounds for 20, and then 2 got added into day 2. And because actually one of the pair downs lost in round 3,
yes,
that's why round 4 was the round that
because it
left
should have been
one
5.
undefeated. It should have been round 5, which would have had only 1 extra instead of what kind of felt like 2 extra rounds. But in April, we also ran an extended Swiss, and it was 8 rounds for 19 people.
Yes,
and
That's long.
Jumpins.
it was a lot.
But what is the thinking there for 19 people to go 8 rounds?
We kind of didn't look at the people. We were just like, can we play 4 rounds a day for 2 days? And everyone was up
so
for
it's
it.
just kind of a YOLO, play as much as we
8
can.
games.
Yeah,
I
why
think
not?
that explains itself.
Yeah. And in that one, we had first undefeated, second had 1 loss, third had 2 losses, and then before a bunch of people with 3 losses, right? So we had no drops again. And everyone's there at the end for prizing. Congratulations. And
the pros are very real pros.
Yeah. But that was also like, we kind of hit the ideal scenario when it came to the top placements in that. And so that's where it was like, okay, you guys want to do that again? Yeah, everyone's happy with it. Let's do it again. So originally we were going to do 8 rounds again, but when we when we had people traveling from the States, from across the country, and 4 a day is a lot. So yes, 3 a day seemed more manageable. That's where we went to 6. I still maintain that the full Swiss is very like community first, community focused.
I agree.
Everybody's there. We have also going for us that it's not being run at a con. So that's also a factor with people not dropping. But both of our events, we haven't had anybody drop. We actually were able to add players into day 2 because somebody had something come up for day 1. I think the way that extended Swiss worked out, we kind of hit the worst case scenario of what can happen with having your top 3 decided on tiebreakers, and it ups the pressure not just on winning, but also how many struggles you've won, making sure that you get that struggle when you lose. And so, yeah, that definitely isn't the greatest when it comes to the top placements, but there is another 19 players there who are playing
100%.
until the end and getting good games in for the full weekend. So
I think you hit the nail on the head that I think that this is kind of worst case scenario on how this can end up. But even then, is it super negative? I am pretty sold, and I think Sean's pretty sold that we are going to try a full Swiss at Battle for Breath.
Yeah. We were full Swiss last year, and we're going to do it again this year for Battle for Breath specifically. Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's certainly time and place for that. And I think they are very community focused. And I think that's a super positive thing. I have come away of, I think there needs to be a reason for everyone to still be there on day 2, because that is a very different feeling than ending top tables kind of alone, which doesn't feel super great. But for Tablebound Open, I'm going to run an organized side event along with the top cut is kind of where I'm leaning with that, because I think that potentially hits the best of both worlds, but going to see kind of how our community reacts to that, because I do just think there's something clean about a top cut. And I don't think there's anything that's going to change my mind for this, but I don't think that isn't saying anything's a wrong answer. I think there's just different ways to run an event. But I will say definitively, giving players something to do, yes, a side event or full Swiss, for everybody to be able to get the same amount of games over 2 days is something I'm very on board for.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest takeaway when we kind of discussed our roundup for the Ontario community was that a lot of the feedback was like, we just come for 1 day and then we just don't come back. So yeah, that's I think for my event in October too. Hopefully, fingers crossed, get approved. I'll be doing that as well too. So I think Tablebound Open will be kind of the guinea pig, I think, of seeing how a side event runs. At a larger event, and then if it goes well, then I'll definitely implement something for October.
Fully agreed. So I've chatted about my list a ton. I don't think there's anything anyone could learn about Boss that hasn't been discussed ad nauseum at this point. But Dylan, you were on a pretty unique Empire list. Again, I picked it up and played it for 3 rounds at our local event Saturday. Had a ton of fun with it. I super impressed with the Inquisitor package as a whole. And again, keeping in mind that this is literally my first time putting Empire on a table, because that has not been my jam. I've played a decent amount of Rebels, some Scoundrels, but it's been pretty heavy on the Republic side. I was super impressive with just the overall control of the list. I think Moff is certainly in an undervalued state right now. I think meta-wise, when we have our 2 top meta lists being Boss or Cassian running at 5 force, it can force some unpleasant activations and is definitely a factor. I guess, Dylan, any other thoughts on the list that you'd kind of want to share?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, I don't know what you're talking about at your list. No one's talking about Delta right now. I don't know what you mean there, but
what do they do?
Big jokes.
Yeah.
Big jokes.
But anyway, yeah, the Moff tax is definitely a major part of it. And I know you don't feel it while you're playing it, but I think partially because I do a lot of shadow boxing, I feel both sides of it.
You feel it when you're on the other side, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And yeah, with the Cassian lists, like, sure, you've got Baze and Shrewd refreshing you force, but that's timing dependent. And if you have K2SO if you want to be doing his revenge trigger, that's a force. Rebel commandos, they're probably getting wounded. Force is tight. In Donovan's game, his turn 1 was Cassian, and as soon as that flipped, I'm like, you're either spending 2 force and your economy is going to be bad for the rest of this struggle,
But nobody wants a turn 1 Cassian.
you're just going with Cassian, who's going to throw a little bit of damage into Dark Troopers, but he, with the terrain the way it was, has no way to even make it to that point.
Right.
And so those are the plays that you often can't afford in games like this. And I've been finding that both Delta and Cassian and the lists that they can bring a lot of dashes, but they can struggle with terrain. And that's also where the Empire list has Reva, Fifth Brother, and Dark Troopers that all have jumps. That's half your team, 4 bodies out of 7.
I noticed this as well. When playing it, it felt almost like Mandos.
Yeah. It's you can get wherever you want to be pretty much. And that also helps you get into melee with people that are hunkered. If you're really wanting to squash those rebel commandos, if you don't want the Republic teams getting all their extra dice from their hunkers, and that they're generally worse in melee as well. And also Moff is giving you an extra die in melee. So the jumps are helping you get in melee, and you're benefiting on both sides for being in melee, both on your attack and by lowering their defenses. So yeah, that's main things there.
One thing, Dylan, I wanted to touch on too that I thought was really important, and you mentioned a few times over when you're talking about this list, is the philosophy of playing on never tell me the odds with this list. That was something I think you and I have talked a lot of Empire. We've thrown ideas back and forth, had a lot of conversations. That was one thing that Thrawn Moff previously, before of course, being Cheru, we can have another side discussion about that list and what changed there. But again, playing a list on odds without an infiltrate unit, I think is something that's really, really interesting. What are some of the things that really stand out for you taking a list on this specifically on odds?
Yeah, so I've always valued infiltrate a little lower than most. And I mean, I was playing Moff Thrawn a lot at the time where, whoever you draw first, you can reposition them if you want.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
That gets you to the point with a lot of, a lot of these in-person maps, there can likely be an ingress point nearby. So that was informing my deployment a lot, is putting Fifth Brother within a dash of that ingress point, because 4 out of 4 people in that list can give him a dash. Also putting him on the Moff side because his dash is range limited. And it was my practice into the Obi Delta where I still had darks on the Moff side, and on a turn 1 Moff, I want to drag a support dash and long live the Empire them, bring 2 bodies up to the midline, and when you put 2 damage on those Dark Troopers, they can end up dying pretty quickly as well. So that was what inspired the flop there, because Fifth Brother, you throw 2 damage on him, not so bad. He can stick it out for a bit.
I found that was worth doing for sure.
I was going to say on Saturday specifically, and I think this was a little trick that Kyle picked up. I was at the table beside him, and he goes, "Okay, I'm going to dash Fifth Brother and then long live the Empire for 2." And I'm looking, I'm like, "This is the start of the game. He's long live the Empire for 2 damage on Fifth Brother." Oh. That was an interesting little tidbit that I think got taken away.
And I'll give credit to Donovan, because I recorded games at the Evergreen of 2024 where he was running Vader Moff, and he was doing that then. Turn 1, drag along a Dark Trooper at that point, and I was like, whoa, wait a second. This is the Dooku play. Dooku Magna Guard.
And it was a lot safer for that on Dark Troopers then. Fair.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
But
Fifth Brother makes sense.
Yeah. But the other point about odds and first contact is that you're going to end up with a spread out board and a lot of one versus one fights. And with those tiebreakers, you just automatically win those fights. It's also with the displacement. If it's 1 body to 1 body, you've got consistent displacement to get that one body off the point, moving a tiebreaker around from across the board, that's getting you points. It also dampens the revenge triggers because in my Cassian Leia with K2 list, if they're on a point 1-1, if it's tied or theirs, they don't want to leave it, or they're just simply too far to actually get to the person who did the wounding. So it's like, I know people have said that Delta is fine on odds, but my the Rebel list, the Cassian list, even though they have commandos, they got infiltrate, should be good on odds. I think that's actually
Cassian
a worse
becomes a lot
mission
less impactful
for them.
Yeah.
I mean, repositions are good, but if you want to get those dash attacks doing things, you can create more opportunities where that wound trigger is going to be less impactful.
Yeah, there's so many times if you're playing Sabotage where a wound into a Cassian list can have them flip 2 points on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
That just will not happen.
Yeah, and I was doing that with Dooku Talzin in many metas ago.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
100%.
Cool. Awesome. Well, it's good to see somebody remain as stalwart on Empire as you have post rebalance. So I give you your props for that.
Yeah, I wish I had given a better showing at Evergreen. That was one with a top cut where tiebreakers just put me out of the cut by one struggle.
Can be a factor on a top cut too.
Happy to. I mean, I went in thinking that my Cassian list, ironically, was going to be the one play once list. But I was happy to prove this list into both Cassian and Delta at the event.
Amazing. I'm gonna have to try it.
It was a
For
ton
sure.
of fun. I will double stamp and back it. Awesome. Well, this has been a long one. So, Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. Was an absolute pleasure to have you. And again, thank you to you and the entire BC community for just being incredibly welcoming. Had a ton of fun at the event, and I'm going to try to make it out again.
That sounds good. Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for making the huge trek across the country, bringing along some goodies and discounts for us, which is greatly appreciated. And we're working on taking advantage of that too with Tablebound. So
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Always happy to support. Awesome. Thank you. As always, if you want to chat with Dylan, he's in the Discord. Again, there's been a ton of chats. All of them. There's been a ton of chats around lists. I know I've been poking around for some lists to try and advice. So if you haven't joined the conversation yet, the link is always in the show notes to join the Discord. There's been a ton of great conversation going on, and we'd love to have you in there. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Looks like we got ourselves a batch of shinies, Commander.